The year of our Lord 2024 is officially revenge season for the Cincinnati Bengals. 2023 was more or less a wash of a season for the Bengals. In common Bengals fashion, they started off the season very slow by taking back-to-back divisional losses to the Browns and Ravens, and actually that Browns loss was especially embarrassing. But just like they did the past couple of years, the boys from Cincy were able to pick it up as the season went on. Part of this slow start was thanks in large part to a slightly injured calf to Joe Burrow that had been a lingering injury since training camp. However, the Bengals were still able to finish the 2023 season as a 9-8 team with a backup QB playing half the year, and also while playing in the toughest division in football. And really, they barely just missed out on the playoffs. Had they have been in the NFC, they probably would have made it in. But as we look ahead to the 2024 season, the Bengals are slated as a 10.5 under-over win total team. But throughout today's video, I'm going to explain why I'm bullish on the under for the 2024 Bengals. Let's first begin with their offense. Joe Burrow is expected to be fully healthy as we head into week 1, and while everyone is beyond optimistic about the return of Joey, and even claiming that he's the chosen one to stop the Chiefs' three-peat, I think we should all slow down and take a realistic look at the 2024 season for number 9. We more than likely won't see Burrow take part in any preseason games due to the risk of him re-injuring himself, but that actually isn't as helpful as you might think. Joe hasn't played in a preseason game since his rookie year, and that might just be a major contributing factor as to why the Bengals, and Burrow specifically, have opened up the past 2 seasons going 0-2. But when Joe's on, he's one of the best QBs in the world, and he will more than likely be in the MVP conversation. I mean, we all remember what Joe did last time he came back from a season-ending injury, right? I am slightly pessimistic predicting Joe's upcoming season performance, and that's really only because of the injury he's forced to overcome. He's coming off now his second career season-ending injury, this time with a torn ligament in his throwing wrist. And if you know football, you know your throwing wrist is important, especially if you're a quarterback. But I'm still pretty confident in Joe. And lucky for Joe, he's still got Jamar Chase to throw the ball to, who, after a somewhat quiet 2023 season, at least for his standards, will be back ready to light it up once again this year. I personally still have Jamar pegged as a top 5 receiver in the league, and he's actually my dark horse pick for the 2024 Offensive Player of the Year award. Then we've got T. Higgins, and this will almost certainly be his last year playing for Cincinnati. But with that being said, I'm expecting a major breakout season for T. He's going to be giving it his absolute all, seeing how he's going to be hitting the open market next year. And remember, Higgins is probably a wide receiver 1 on about 15 to 20% of NFL teams. And even when playing with the other JB at QB last year, he still put up solid numbers and had arguably the play of the year. The Bengals did part ways with their wide receiver 3 in Tyler Boyd as he was sent over to Tennessee. However, the Bengals took Jermaine Burton in the 3rd round of last year's draft, and while he's not as big of a target as Boyd, he should be a solid option in the slot for Joe, as long as he can stay out of trouble. The Bengals did also part ways with Joe Mixon, who actually had a career season last year. He finished with 13 total touchdowns and over 1,300 yards from scrimmage, but now he's on the Texans. So to fill his role, the Bengals grabbed Zach Moss from Indy. And, I mean, yeah, he was a solid player, but he doesn't really seem like a true RB1 to me. His upside certainly won't be as high as Mixon's, but we'll just have to see how this year goes for him. A sneaky good pickup that the Bengals made this offseason was grabbing Mike Gesicki from the Patriots. His stats last year were down, but we can more or less blame that on the quarterback problems in New England. I'm excited to see a major resurgence in his career now that he's got a good QB to play with. The Bengals' offensive line is still incredibly suspect, and once again, that's obviously going to be a big problem for them this upcoming season. After giving up a grand total of 50 sacks last year, which was tied for 7th most in the league, the Bengals decided to spend their 1st-round draft pick on Amarius Mims. And I definitely like this pick for Cincy, as Mims is a physical freak with some great footwork, but he is more than likely going to be thrown right to the wolves. He'll of course have to face off with TJ Watt and Myles Garrett each 2 times a year, and if we look at the Bengals' 2024 schedule, we see they're also playing the Raiders, Chargers, and Cowboys. So that means Mims will more than likely have to block Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Max Crosby, and Micah Parsons. So all I can really say is good luck to Mims and Burrow. But in all honesty, it's not the offense from Cincinnati that has me worried. It's their defense. In 2023, the Bengals defense finished 31st in yards allowed per game, and they were statistically the worst pass defense in the entire league. So for the 2024 season, the Bengals retooled their secondary by re-adding Von Bell and picking up Geno Stone from the Ravens to help round out their safety positions. But the strong suit of this Bengals defense is still its edge rushers. Sam Hubbard is a physical freak who can do just about anything. And then on the other end, you have Trey Hendrickson, who's probably the most underrated pass rusher in the entire league. He oftentimes gets skipped over, possibly because there are a few more premier pass rushers in the AFC, and especially in the AFC North. But he finished 2023 with 17.5 sacks and a Pro Bowl selection. But that's just about where the good ends for the Bengals defense. Their linebackers are alright, and their corners are relatively solid. However, they are aging, and there is definitely room for improvement there. But they just lost DJ Reader, who is a pretty solid run stopper in the middle. So yeah, the defense has me incredibly skeptical. They were one of the worst in the NFL last year, and they did very little to address their problems. I do still think that the Super Bowl window is open for the Cincinnati Bengals, but I do think it is slowly starting to close. I mean, first off, they're in the AFC North, which is certainly the toughest division in pro football. And also, the Bengals have struggled to stay healthy, arguably more than any other team in the NFL. They have all the star power in the world, but if these cats aren't playing in the games, then they're just sitting around collecting their expensive checks. I mean, Joe Burrow is the most expensive short-haired man in football. So yeah, you're gonna need him to play 17 plus games a year. But when the Bengals are fully healthy, they're able to go on stretches where, in all honesty, they look like the best team in football. We saw it in 2021 when they went on their absolute tear to end the regular season and then rode that high straight into their historic playoff run. We even saw very similar results in the 2022 season. And then last season, the Bengals were playing great football during the midpoint of the season, when they went on an absolutely electric 4-game winning streak, beating the likes of the Cardinals, Seahawks, 49ers, and Bills. So it's pretty obvious that they can compete with these top-tier NFL teams. It's just consistency and health that are the Bengals' biggest problems. Now let's take a look at the 2024 Bengals schedule so I can explain why I think they're a sub-11 win team this year. So even though the Bengals come out each year incredibly slow, they aren't losing a foot race to the New England Patriots to start the year. So for the first time in 3 years, I have the Bengals winning on week 1. But their first loss will definitely come at week 2 at Burrowhead. Then they will likely win their next 4. And I actually have them splitting with the entire AFC North. So that means that's another 3 losses right then and there. I also have the Bengals losing to both Philly and Dallas. Then I actually have them winning every other game, except for their Week 11 matchup with the Los Angeles Chargers. This just seems like a trap game to me. It's going to be all the way in LA, and for some reason, Herbert always seems to get the better of Burrow. Pretty much every year, each NFL team loses a game that they totally should have won, and it kind of just leaves everyone in shock. Think about last year when the Eagles lost to a Zach Wilson-led Jets, or when the Chiefs lost on Christmas Day to the Raiders. It's just something that happens. Any given Sunday, I guess. But yeah, that adds up to a 10-7 record, which I think is pretty fair. And yeah, I still think the Bengals can certainly make the playoffs with this record. And really, that's all that matters. But this is of course assuming that all their stars stay healthy and can pick up right where they left off. If not, expect just another crappy year for the Bengals. Overall, I think the Bengals are a little overrated going into this season. Well guys, hope you enjoyed my look and prediction into the 2024 Bengals season. Remember though, this is just my opinion, so be sure to let me know what you think the Bengals will look like this year in the comment section below. Also, please drop a like on this video, as it will greatly decrease the chances of a Chiefs three-peat.